Hello, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking all about 5-star predictions for 2023. I'm really excited to be sharing these with you today. I was kind of on the fence if I wanted to do a most anticipated romances video or a 5-star predictions video, and I decided to combine them this year. Most of the books that I want to read in 2023 are romances, though there are some deviations, so I just decided to do it all kind of in one video, and it's going to be a 5-star predictions video, with the majority of these being my most hotly anticipated romances of the next year. But before we get into it, I wanted to thank the sponsor of today's video and tell you a little bit about Casetify. Super excited to be working with Casetify again because I use their cases absolutely every day on my phone. I've got one on my phone right now. And I love Casetify because their goal is to bring you really stylish phone cases that offer a lot of protection without a lot of bulk. Obviously, no one wants a brick-like phone case, and the Casetify cases are super sleek and stylish. Casetify is the world's most popular tech accessory brand, and they're known for their protective cases and global collaborations. I love Casetify because, like I said, their cases are super protective, up to 20% more protective, 4 times the military standard, drop test 104 times, with 8.2 feet in drop protection, which you can see right here in this little demonstration. I also love that the cases are super trendy and customizable. This is the case that I have on my phone right now, but I have a whole selection of cases from Casetify in front of me. I have these beautiful ones with kind of a rainbow bumper. I have this really swirly pattern one, which I think is going to go on my phone next. And then I have these ones as well. They have 2,000 plus designs on their website for me to choose from, and they have customizable cases as well, like this one. Casetify also works with over 300 artists around the world, so the designs are really diverse. And if you're into sustainability, they've got you covered there too. With Casetify, over 51,000 cases have been recycled, and 65% of the cases that Casetify sells are recycled, which I actually really love the look of. On the sides of some of their cases, you'll see sort of a speckled design, and those are the recycled phone cases. This also means 20% less carbon emissions, which is amazing. And they don't just make phone cases, they also make fun phone charms and phone straps for your phone. I actually have one on my phone right now. As you can see, I've had this on for the past week or two, and I have to say it definitely comes in handy when I'm on the go. I went antique shopping this past weekend, and I was able to carry it on the crook of my arm, and I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. Not only is it super cute and fun to play with if you're a fidgeter like I am, but again, it's just really helpful whenever I am on the go and need to be hands-free. If you want to try Casetify out for yourself, go to casetify.com/Chandler to get 15% off. Thanks again to Casetify for sponsoring this portion of today's video. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about my 5-star predictions for 2023. First up, we have Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is one that I feel like is sort of a given. I feel like almost everyone is going to have this on their 5-star predictions or most anticipated romances of next year because, Emily Henry, whether you love her or hate her, she definitely writes memorable romances, and I'm really hoping that this one is a 5-star win for me. It is a relationship in trouble kind of story. It's about Harriet and Win, and Harriet and Win are going on this sort of friend vacation that they go on yearly with, the group of their friends, but no one knows that they've broken up, so they have to pretend to be still in a relationship, all while hiding their feelings for each other. There's kind of a mutual pining situation going on there, I'm pretty sure. This doesn't seem like one of those stories that's sort of a broken relationship, enemies to lovers kind of thing. It seems more like these two are estranged over some sort of misunderstanding, and they've just had lingering feelings for each other. They have to kind of put on a show for their friends. I am so thrilled for this. Y'all know how I feel about mutual pining. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Maybe this isn't that kind of story, but from the synopsis, I feel like it's going to be, and I'm just so excited. This one comes out April 25th. Next up, we have Secretly Yours by Tessa Bailey. When I was throwing together a tentative list, I kind of just went off of titles alone and didn't really look at the synopses for books. This one was sort of a shoo-in for me because it's Tessa Bailey, and I expect all of her stuff to be 5 stars, even if not all of it is. But this story is actually one that does interest me after having read the synopsis, though I will say it was a touch confusing for me. This one is about our main character, Hallie, and she has had a crush on this guy named Julian for many years, ever since high school, I want to say. I don't know if they had a full-on relationship or not, but she definitely had a crush on him. Now he is back in town on sabbatical from his professor job. He's definitely grown up and grown grumpy, which, typical grumpy sunshine thing. Hallie ends up leaving him, I want to say a secret admirer kind of letter on his doorstep. I guess they maybe rekindle their relationship. Not entirely sure how that works out. Their personalities are definitely different, so it's definitely a, kind of grumpy sunshine, mismatched personality sort of thing, and I'm kind of here for that. I think Tessa Bailey really excels when she does that sort of story. It Happened One Summer is a case in point. Also, today she announced the follow-up to this novel. It's not, the same couple, but it's the same universe, and that one is called Unfortunately Yours. Secretly Yours is going to come out February 7th, and Unfortunately Yours is going to come out in June, so very excited for both of those titles, but I'm just going to count Secretly Yours because that's the one that I put on this list first. If you asked me at the beginning of this year if I thought that I would put an Ali Hazelwood book on this list, I definitely would have thought you were crazy because while I read The Love Hypothesis last year and enjoyed it, fair enough, I didn't expect Ali Hazelwood to have any sort of longevity in terms of the kinds of things that I enjoy. I mean, I assumed she would have success in writing other novels. I just didn't expect me to like them. Love on the Brain, however, was one of my favorite books of this year, so it made sense to me that I would put Love Theoretically automatically on my list. This is another one where the synopsis of the book kind of hurts my brain a little bit. I feel like there's a little bit too much going on. I like a sparse synopsis. Just give me like tropes. That's all I need. I don't want to know too much going into a book. I think it makes it a little bit more exciting. But this one in particular is about our heroine, who is a theoretical physicist, also a paid for fake girlfriend kind of thing. In this situation, she is trying to get a job at MIT, but she is foiled kind of in these plans because one of her clients who's hired her to be a fake boyfriend, his older brother is in charge of the hiring committee, I guess, for MIT, so she has to sort of impress him, even though he wants nothing to do with her and like, I think kind of hates her, or at least we think he hates her. The premise doesn't really sound that different to me than other Ali Hazelwood works, especially Love on the Brain. Since I love that one so much, I mean, chances are that I will probably love this one as well. I mean, a 4-star and a 5-star from the same author, like, I think this is gonna be good. I'm excited about it. It comes out June 13th. Another book that I would never have predicted to put on a 5-star predictions kind of list before 2022, to be honest, is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I have not had good luck with Abby Jimenez books in the past. I want to say, except for Part of Your World, which I read and loved this year, gave 5 stars to. I think I've given all of her books like 2 or 3 stars. None of them have been like total home runs for me, except for Part of Your World. And I want to say Yours Truly is kind of a spin-off or like a companion novel kind of to Part of Your World. Different characters, obviously, because it's like a romance. There was happily ever after in that last book. But this one I want to say is about the best friend of our heroine in the last book, or maybe not best friend, but like close friend. She's also a doctor. Her name is Brianna, and she is getting out of a kind of messy divorce, dealing with some other tough stuff in her personal life when some hotshot new doctor comes to town and is like trying to vie for the position that she really wants. I want to say it's like head of surgery or something like that. And she's pretty disappointed at this outcome. Like she's pretty disappointed at the fact that she's probably not going to get the job she deserves. Till one day she receives a letter from that same doctor, kind of, I don't know if he's like apologizing for the fact that like he's in the running for this job or what, but she gets to know his personality for something other than what she thinks it is. He seems really sweet, basically just like someone she would want to know. And so she continues a sort of like pen pal relationship with this guy, which, okay, pen pals, sign me the hell up. Y'all know how I feel about that. I feel like pen pals, mutual pining, those are like my 2 favorite tropes of all time. I feel like this one's going to be really fantastic. I really think that this author writes really emotional romances, even if I don't always connect with the emotions in them. I really appreciate what she does, and kind of steering away from the kind of more smutty direction that a lot of authors are going down. She definitely focuses on a lot of heart. I do think that like makes the steam in these books better as well. So I'm excited for this one, and it comes out April 11th. Honestly, I think the name of the game for this video is just that I have complicated relationships with a lot of authors, and that there are very, very few authors that I've read that I have loved every single book by them, right? And this author writes books that I kind of feel ambivalent towards, kind of dislike, and also really love. And that person is Lauren Asher, and the 3rd book in her Dreamland Billionaire series is coming out 2023, and I could not be more excited. This book is about Callahan, who is the sort of like fun, loving brother of the bunch, and he kind of reminds me of like a Roman from Succession, if you watch that show. At least that's kind of how I picture him and his personality. I think he has a little bit of like an alcohol problem. He's definitely someone who you can't help but root for and really enjoy in the other books in the series. The overall premise of the story is that a sort of like Walt Disney type leaves behind a will for his 3 grandsons. We're sort of in weird places when the series begins. Like, they're definitely not fulfilling the destinies that the grandpa wants for them, and so he sets aside like special roles at the company for each of them if they fulfill certain tasks. And the task of Callahan, our hero in this story, is that he is to go to the family lake house before he decides if he wants to sell it. And at the family lake house, he finds that his childhood friend slash like crush, Lana, is there, and she actually owns the lake house. So I guess he has to kind of like make it up to her to be able to stay at the lake house. I'm not entirely sure. I just know that this is kind of a second chance childhood friends to lovers romance. I'm sold. That's stuff that I personally really enjoy. And again, Callahan, I think, is my favorite of the heroes that I have met so far in the series. I mean, I guess I will have that confirmed or denied, I guess, whenever I do decide to pick up this book. But this one comes out January 31st, which I'm really grateful for, because it seems like a lot of the books that are on this list come out in the summer. And what am I going to read between now and then? Next up, we have Jasper Vale by Devney Perry. Devney Perry was a new to me author this past year, but I really, really enjoyed Juniper Hill, which I read for a small town romance video that I did recently. I'll leave a link in the description down below. I had a lot of gems from that video. They're all Kindle Unlimited romances in case you are a KU subscriber. But this one I'm excited about because this one is about Eloise, who is the sister of the hero from Juniper Hill. She is the manager, I want to say, of the family hotel, and it is named after her grandmother, but also her as well. So like, hotel is called Hotel Eloise, and she has always felt a draw to this hotel, and she wants to completely run it by herself. But her parents don't necessarily think she is mature enough to do this or take on this responsibility. I want to say in the last book, Eloise was only like 25 or something like that, and she definitely doesn't further her credibility in this story because she ends up marrying someone in Vegas, kind of forgetting about it, and then being forced to kind of stay with this guy because he needs a date to a wedding in 3 months. So Eloise's life is a little bit complicated, and I'm just really excited to read her story. I really liked her character in Juniper Hill, so I'm assuming I'm really gonna like her romance. Fingers crossed. This one comes out February 7th. Another new to me author that I had really consistent luck with this past year is Elsie Silver. I think I've given her books 4 stars stars, 5 stars, 5 stars of the 3 that I've read. So definitely a pretty flawless record from Miss Elsie Silver. And Powerless is the 3rd book in the Chestnut Springs series. 2 of the books that I really enjoyed this year, one of the 4 stars and another of the 5 stars, were the first 2 books of the series. And I'm just really excited to read Powerless because this is another childhood friends to lovers story. This one follows another character named Jasper, who is a really well-respected and well-loved hockey player, and he has had a female best friend for a very long time. They're still really close friends. It's not like a childhood friends rekindled and lovers later on. It is a we've been best friends this entire time kind of thing. But our heroine is engaged at the start of the story, and she ends up getting, I think, left at the altar, and we have Jasper swoop in and kind of save her, and I think they enter into not a romantic relationship immediately, but they kind of help each other through really difficult situations, and it seems like this is going to be a very emotional story, which I'm really excited about. I also know that since it's Elsie Silver, this book is going to be steamy as hell, so overall, this is definitely a story that I know that I'm gonna love. And this one comes out February 10th. Next up we have Do I Know You by Emily Wibberley and Austin Siegmund Broca. God, that's always a mouthful for me. This is a husband and wife writing duo. They typically write YA stories, but this year I read The Roughest Draft by them. I think it was their adult romance debut, and I fell in love with it. It's not a book I would have picked up on my own based on the premise of the story, and I kind of feel that way about this one as well, but since I had such good luck with their adult romance debut, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna pick this one up kind of no matter what the premise is. And this is another, I think, marriage in trouble sort of story. The last one they wrote isn't, but there's other books on this list that are marriage in trouble stories, which are not typically my favorite. But this one follows a couple who are going on like a 5-year anniversary trip, and their relationship is kind of rocky until they are, I think, at like a bar or something at the resort that they're staying at, and a well-meaning guest comes by and thinks that these two are single and tries to like hook them up and says like, you know, let me set you two up together. And so for the rest of the vacation, they pretend like they don't know each other and that they are getting to know each other for the first time. And I think sparks fly and they kind of rekindle their romance and see what they loved about each other all along. Really excited about this one. The last book they wrote was also a second chance romance in a different kind of setting. They weren't married, but I just think this is going to be fantastic. I'm sure it's going to be overly purple in prose and or a little pretentious, but I don't really care. I'm looking forward to this, and it comes out January 24th. All right, next up we have King of Pride by Anna Huang. This one doesn't have a very long synopsis yet on Goodreads. I don't know if she shared one on her Instagram. I haven't been following very closely, but I believe, and I could be wrong here, this one is about the best friend of the heroine of King of Wrath and a guy that we met in the last book as well. And I really liked both of those characters. I felt like the hero, or at least who I assumed the hero was going to be, was a guy who I feel like Anna Huang doesn't really write. Like definitely a different kind of archetype of a hero, and it just seems like a book that I'm really going to enjoy. I was going to pick this book up kind of no matter what, because I'm very interested in her writing and her ability to publish so quickly but also write really solid stuff. I figured I'd go ahead and be optimistic and call this a 5-star prediction. This one is slated to come out April 27th, and hopefully between now and then I'll get a better synopsis and a better understanding of what the story will be. Next up we have Play to Win by Jodie Slaughter. Jodie Slaughter was a new to me author in 2022. I ended up reading, I think, Bet on It by her, and that one was just a 3-star romance for me, but there was so much promise there and so much hope, I guess you could say. I really liked elements of that story, and I figured if it was just told a little bit differently, maybe it would be the perfect fit for me. I think that one just focused a little too heavily on the mental health and a little bit less on the romance. It was extremely steamy. So I'm hoping that this one kind of rights those wrongs. It's about our main character who is a recent lottery winner. At the moment she is living at home with her mother and is just kind of treading along in life. She's just not having the best time, but when she wins the lottery, she's super excited. She's gonna try to change her life and like do all the things she's ever wanted to do. But first on her list of things that she needs to get done is talk to her estranged husband who can come and collect on her lottery winnings. So I think this is a second chance romance between our heroine and her estranged husband. Another marriage in trouble novel, which again, it's like not something I typically go for. Always end up reading them and usually end up liking them. I say it's like 50-50 with this sort of premise, but I'm really excited about this one. Like I said, Jodie Slaughter is an author that I definitely like am watching out for. I saw a lot of promise in that first book, and I'm hoping that this one is a 5-star. I'm very optimistic. This one comes out July 11th. Now, the reason I didn't title this video, like I said, most anticipated romances of 2023, is that there are a select handful of books that are not romances on this list. One of them being Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo, which is the second book in the Ninth House series. I don't know if it's a duology. I don't actually know what the name of the series is, but it's a follow-up to Ninth House. And Ninth House was a book that I read in 2021, I want to say. Not entirely sure, but I read it in the fall around this time of year. It was like in November, and I ate it up. I absolutely loved it. It's a slow-moving kind of dark academia sort of story, but Leigh Bardugo doesn't take the dark academia parts too seriously. I think she leans into more of the magic and the mystery, because these books are about secret societies at Yale that she has kind of reimagined into something, again, a little bit more mystical and magical. The books follow Alex Stern as she tries to kind of like parse through these secret societies and be a part of one herself. She is part of one of the like governing, I guess you could say, or like police-like secret societies that watches over the other ones, make sure that they don't fall out of line. And I'm especially excited for Hellbent because I'm hoping that it's going to pick up right where the cliffhanger from Ninth House left off. It's definitely implied in the synopsis for Hellbent, which I'm not going to try to read to you because it's going to spoil Ninth House, but really, really excited for this one, and I think putting it on this list definitely helps me to follow through with actually reading the book. Not that I'm not going to read the book anyway, but you know, sometimes we put things off, and I'm not putting things off because I'm going to follow up with you next year on how I felt about all of these books. This one comes out January 10th. Next up, we have the first historical romance on this list. I think there's only two, and it is Infamous by Lex Croucher. I ended up reading Reputation by this author earlier this year, and it was like Mean Girls meets Pride and Prejudice. Absolutely adored it. I feel like this author has a really unique voice and does really interesting things in historical romance that are non-traditional. Typically, I don't like that. I feel like a lot of the attempts to make historical romance something different lately have not been for me, like the Wisteria Society of Lady Witches or something like that. That series definitely doesn't work. And anything kind of in that ilk is just not really for me, but I really, really enjoyed Reputation, and I think I'm going to enjoy Infamous as well. It's about our main character, Eddie. She is kind of in a tough situation because she's been besties, a little too close besties with her friend Rose, who she's been like, I don't know, kind of kissing and like having fun with for very many years, until Rose one day decides to debut, go to like her first debutante ball, and decides that she's interested in marriage, and Eddie is like very much not about this. I'm assuming, and I could be wrong here, but I'm assuming that Eddie is sapphic in some way, and she ends up becoming friends with this poet guy, and he's like, hey, do you want to come to my crumbling mansion and meet a bunch of people and be, you know, totally immersed in hedonism? And our girl Eddie is like, yeah, of course, let's do that. Things get a little interesting from there. In what way? I'm not entirely sure, and I love that the synopsis doesn't let you know what that way is going to be. I feel like so many book synopses lately just give everything away in the story, whether it's for a thriller or a romance, whatever. This one keeps things vague, and I really appreciate that. Very excited for this one. It comes out July 21st. Next up is a kind of random pick, I feel like, for me. Not random in that I don't love this author and their works, but random because I don't think I've ever really featured any of this author's works in really any of my videos, which is a damn shame because I really enjoy J.R. Ward stories. I'm really, really excited for Lassiter by J.R. Ward. This is one that I think is hotly anticipated by a lot of J.R. Ward fans because we learn about Lassiter, a fallen angel, in, I want to say, like the first few books of the series, and we just keep waiting to see if he's going to get a romance because the Black Dagger Brotherhood series, which this book is a part of, mostly centers on the vampire inhabitants of the world, and we just didn't know, are we going to get a Lassiter story? Finally, we are at the 21st book in the series. Now, I'm only 14 books into the series, but I'm putting this book on this list in hopes that it will spur me to read the rest of the books in the series and or reread the books that I've already read and, you know, catch up on the ones I haven't before this book comes out in April. I want to say, yeah, April 11th. Is that ambitious? Absolutely it is. I really do love the series, and I'm not sure how I'm going to make content about it going forward, if I want to do like a podcast or if I just want to like reread the books in one video. I don't know. I don't know what the world holds for me next year, but I do want to make content about these books because they are some of my favorite. They are kind of what got me into the romance genre in general. I have talked about that, I think, before on my channel, but I don't talk enough about these books and I love them, so it comes out April 11th. Next up, we have Motel by Penelope Douglas. I think I'm adding this one to my list because I'm just hoping that this book gets published. I think this one was supposed to be published this year. I feel like we had heard rumblings and it just has not come into fruition, which I'm not entirely disappointed in. I really respect that Penelope Douglas as an author doesn't try to push out and churn out novels as quickly as possible. A lot of respect for authors who can do that. I think that's a really impressive skill as well. But I think in a market that really requires you to pump shit out very quickly, the KU market specifically, Penelope definitely sticks true to their thing and writes at their own pace, and I appreciate that. So, Motel, we don't have a synopsis for, no idea when it's coming out, but I'm hoping and praying that it is early 2023. I want to say this is the book that they're working on right now. I could be wrong, it could be the follow-up to Falls Boys, but this is a standalone novel, and it is about a girl who works at a hotel that we've met before in a different novel, I think maybe Birthday Girl, but I'm excited for this one, putting on this list because, you know, I always hope that Penelope Douglas books are 5 stars for me. Another non-romance pick, kind of, is The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. The Folk of the Air trilogy is among my favorite YA fantasy series, so it would only make sense to put The Stolen Heir on here. I'm so excited for this. I will be honest with you, I didn't know what the synopsis was before sitting down and actually looking at Goodreads today. I just knew I was going to read the book, didn't care what it was about. But this one is about Oak, all grown up. Oak is the younger brother of Carden from the first series, and in this book, he is having to team up with, I believe, the daughter of the Court of Teeth. The daughter of the Lady of the Court of Teeth. They are going to take down the lady from the inside. Or maybe from the outside, not entirely sure, but they're going to team up and do that, which is going to be tricky because our heroine does not like Oak. They were betrothed at one point, and she was just like, I don't want anything to do with him. So, I mean, sign me up. Enemies to lovers goodness, yes. From Miss Holly Black, absolutely. This one comes out January 3rd. I keep trying to quit YA fantasy, and it just keeps pulling me back in. Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare is the third book in the Last Hours trilogy. I always forget the names of Cassandra Clare's series because she has so many. I've read Chain of Iron, I've read Chain of Gold, now I'm ready to read Chain of Thorns. This one, you know, how do I describe it? I don't, because there are too many damn characters and too many things going on, but it's going to be a whole host of kids in Victorian England fighting the powers that be, and by that I mean demon evil. So I am excited for this one. I feel like the second book of the series was a little bit mediocre compared to the first. I think the first one I gave like 4 or 5 stars, really enjoyed it. The second one it was like 3, generous 3 stars. This one I'm hoping really brings home the series, right? Like does everything that I want it to do. I'm excited to see who ends up with who, what secrets are revealed, and if anything ends up shocking me. And this one comes out January 31st. Next up, we have a sports romance from Devney Perry, which I was not expecting. We got this announcement yesterday, so I quickly got rid of a random selection on this here list. The last few were kind of random. I did kind of work through it, but I was like, you know what? Let's get rid of that other one. Let's put Coach on here. Coach is a single dad football romance, which me, football lover, absolutely so excited about this one. I don't know much about it except for that it is a second chance romance. We have, again, single dad football coach, I believe. He is in Montana or coming back to Montana. So it's still like a small town romance from Devney Perry, but it is a sports small town romance. And I believe our heroine has something to do with the team. Like she works for the team, something like that. I don't need to know all of the nitty gritty details. I'm going to read this book kind of no matter what. It comes out April 6th, and I am very excited to read something different from Devney Perry. Next up, we have another historical romance from a new to me author, but definitely not a new to writing author. We have The Notorious Lord Knightley by Lorraine Heath. Lorraine Heath is a beloved author by very many people, especially, I believe, Crystal, who I adore and love taking recommendations from. And I've never read a Lorraine Heath book before, but this one really caught my eye. Maybe not the cover, which has kind of horrible font choices, but the synopsis was very intriguing. This book is about a book. At the beginning of the story, there is this book kind of circulating the upper crust of society. I don't know if it's a romance or what, but it has this villain in it, this Lord Kay, and it is sort of a caricature of this really beloved earl in the English upper crust of society. His name is Lord Knightley, and this book we find out was penned by his jilted bride. Everybody thinks this guy is really great, but our heroine's like, no, I'm gonna let you know that this guy's kind of a piece of shit, but I have to do it subtly. Unfortunately, it wasn't subtly enough because people are coming for her, and she's kind of scared for her own safety. Who does she enlist to help her out? Lord Knightley, of course. She has to go back to the guy that jilted her at the altar and ask him for some help. And sparks fly, they rekindle their romance. Excited about this one. This is the kind of like juicy historical that I'm into. I love angst. So looking forward to this one. I hope that Lorraine Heath doesn't disappoint. This one comes out June 27th. X's Nose by Amy Lee is a book that I didn't expect to put on this list because I really did not like this author's debut, unfortunately. But once I read the synopsis of this book, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be generous in 2023, and I'm gonna hope that the follow-up novel or the like second novel that this author publishes is good for me. Maybe it's gonna be 5-star. I'm not entirely sure. But it is about our heroine who is an influencer, I want to say, really into romance novels, and unfortunately her own romances in life are not going so well. She has a lot of ex-boyfriends and no real love to show for it. So she decides that she is going to take matters into her own hands. She's not going to get on dating apps. She's going to go back to all of those exes and try to see if she can start something up again. Sort of like a meet cute situation and get that second chance romance she's always dreamed of. But things get complicated because our heroine Tara ends up enlisting the help of her roommate, and she ends up falling for her roommate as she does this. Or maybe her roommate falls for her. Not entirely sure. Excited to find out. I love that kind of premise. It's very tropey to me, the idea of like having this guy who's secretly been into you this entire time help you find a new guy. Yeah, I'm very, very into that idea. Hoping that the execution is better here. I think it will be. Just something about the last book that this author wrote didn't totally work for me because I feel like the hero was a little bit of a misogynist. You know what? Hoping this guy isn't. This one comes out January 10th. Next up is a second chance romance, and not a second chance romance in that is the kind of like premise of the story, but a second chance romance in that I am giving this author's romances a second chance, and that book is titled A Guide to Being Just Friends by Sophie Sullivan. I really did not enjoy How to Love Your Neighbor. Ended up DNFing it this year, but I think this novel is much more promising. It's a pretty simple idea. Basically a meet cute gone wrong turned friends to lovers, which I love friends to lovers. I think it's the superior trope over enemies to lovers. Just gonna say it. And I'm also willing to overlook that the heroine in the story, her dream career is to open her own salad shop. But this one comes out January 17th, and I'm excited to give this author's work another try. Now, I know that I said that enemies to lovers is the inferior trope to friends to lovers, and I stand by that. However, I am putting another enemies to lovers book on this list. It is Just My Type by Fallon Ballard. I've never read any books by this author before. I want to say she only has one other one out. I think it's Lease on Love, which I've seen the cover of before. I haven't really heard much about it. The story kind of reminds me in some ways of The X Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon. We have our main character, Lana, who is a columnist for a really popular website, and she writes a relationship advice column until one day, a guy that she went to high school with, I want to say it's like her ex-boyfriend from high school, he comes back into the picture in a big way by being another columnist at the website, and they're having to compete to see whose relationship column will be more successful, and in doing so, they have to kind of take on roles that neither of them were really prepared for. She is obviously the serial dater and or serial monogamist relationship person. She's gonna have to write a column on how to be single, and the hero, who is perpetually single, like not good in relationships is having to write like long-term relationship advice. I think personalities clash, heads clash, especially because they're in competition at work, but very, very excited about this one. Fingers crossed that it is a total win for me. I've never read anything from this author before, but this one comes out February 7th. All right, now down to the last two books, which is good news because my throat is really hurting from talking too much. I think that should be telling me something about how long I'm going on about these books. But The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren is one that I'm putting on my list because Christina Lauren I have had mixed success with. Really loved The Honeymooners, really loved The Soulmate Equation. Wow, that took me a second. But I haven't liked their last couple of releases, or maybe just their last release, not entirely sure. This one is another semi-complicated synopsis book. We have a romance novelist. I guess it's kind of like a common theme here. We have a romance novelist and a documentary filmmaker. He is tasked with being at the helm of a reality television show, which he's not super hyped about, but he wants to make it into something interesting because, you know, like he's been asked to do this. And when he kind of bumps into our heroine Felicity, he is like, wow, she's a romance author who doesn't have a boyfriend or a partner of any sort. Why don't we put her on the show? And she's like, I guess, sure, but only if the guys or the people who are contestants fulfill romance archetypes. I'm very excited for this one. It seems like a little bit complex, but it also is giving me the same sort of like complicated, I guess, plot line, or the same sort of like complex feel as The Soulmate Equation, which I really liked. So I'm hoping that this one is fantastic. I'm hoping that the premise is not the most interesting thing about this book. It comes out May 16th. And then we have the last book on this list, which is also not a romance, Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This book seems incredibly satirical and incredibly timely, especially with like some of the books being published more recently. But this story is about two main characters. I want to say June and Athena are their names. June, I believe, is white. Athena is definitely Asian. And when Athena unexpectedly dies, June decides to take Athena's finished manuscript and publish it as if it were her own. She's not had very much luck publishing her novels because no one seems to really care about the perspective of a white person from June's perspective. So she's like, Athena is popular, people really like her, she's a rising star. Oh, she's dead? Let me steal her shit and publish it for myself. What? The premise is incredible. I love R.F. Kuang's writing. I can't foresee this being anything less than fantastic. I'm really excited to see what nuggets of wisdom come from this story. Like I said, I just can't anticipate this being anything less than fantastic. I'm very, very excited to give this one a go. It is coming out May 25th. I don't know if this one's like literary fiction or if it's supposed to be more of a thriller, maybe a combination of both, but regardless, I'll be there picking it up at Barnes & Noble. All right, those are the 23 5-star predictions I have for 2023. Really excited to read all of these and come back to you next year at the end of the year, hopefully, with a lot of good things to say about all of these books. I like making these videos because it gives me a good guideline to work off of. I don't just like make these videos and then forget about them. At least I haven't in the past few years. I really like following up and like letting you know, hey, were my 5-star predictions right? Did I actually enjoy these books? It's a little bit of accountability for me, and it gives me something fun to look forward to as these books kind of come out throughout the year. So let me know in the comments down below what you're most excited for in 2023. This is not an exhaustive list by any means of the books that I'm going to read or the books I'm excited about, but I'm also not great at researching things. So if you have any books that you're excited about and you think I should know about or other people should know about, let us know in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching this video. I love y'all so much, and until next time.